Welcome to MSP Unplugged Tech Talk Tuesday with Josh Weiss from Logic TCG. Excuse me, long day today.
Hey, it's
I'm
all
your
good.
host, Rick Smith. This is the place to learn your tips, tricks, and strategies to help you run and grow your IT service business. Whether you're a one-person shop or leading a team for the journey, this is the place for you. My co-host, Paco Lebron, who you're used to seeing, he is at Channel Pro, right?
Channel Con. CompTIA, Channel
Yeah,
Con.
I was Channel Khan, excuse me, I get the names wrong. So he's not going to be joining us tonight. But again, Josh, welcome. How are you today?
Hey, it is so good to be here. Nice to see you, Rick. I know I've seen you on the Tech Tribe before.
Yeah,
Nice to see you face to face.
yeah, definitely. It's been just a little. We had a little mix up, everybody. We're starting a little late. We've had a little technical difficulties in the background today, but we'll get it all together. Before Josh and I get started, just want to let everybody know it is 44 days officially to TechCon Unplugged. So hopefully everyone's got their tickets, or you're in the process of getting your tickets. We do have a few left. It's September 16th to the 18th at the Hilton Rosemont Chicago O'Hare. Everyone has heard the spiel 100 times, so I'm not going to give it again. The premise of it is this is a conference put on for techs by techs. We do have vendors. They will be contributing to the event, giving some helpful, useful information for us to help us run our businesses and take things back. The greatest part about TechCon, I will say that that I've gotten out of it is the camaraderie, the friendships, the spontaneous, you hear say it all the time, the spontaneous and one-on-one conversations you get. Those conversations really help to spur ideas, to give you inspiration. And it just, you get great friends, people you can, mentors, people you can call, lean on, get advice on how to help you run your business. And those things are priceless. And those are the greatest parts about what I gotten out of TechCon Unplugged. Now, this is my first official year being a principal and running it. So, Paco and I have put all we have into making this a great event. So hopefully everyone who can hear, you can go get your tickets. If you don't have them already, they're $2.99 at techconunplugged.com. There are various discount codes available around to save you a couple of bucks. And if you need one, send an email to me, Rick at MSP Unplugged, and I'll be glad to provide you with one. Okay, so
Here, Rick.
yeah, infomercials over there, Josh, and I just ad-libbed it today. Just say, hey, let's just get through it.
It's all good, man.
Talk about it, but
That's exciting. I don't think I'm gonna be able to go, but I wish I could. Sounds fun. And I've seen some people whose advice I trust very, very much, speaking very highly of your event, like that it's one of the best things you could possibly attend in the channel. So.
Yeah, it was again, as I say, this is my first year as a actual principal in it, but I gained a lot from TechCon the past 2 years that I've gone, and even before when it was a different a merged group under a different name, is where Paco and I met and formed a great bond, which is why I value that. Some friends I have.
What group?
I'm sorry.
What was it called previously?
It was called, it was in Washington, D.C. 4 years ago. It was called, I can't remember it off the top of my head. It'll come to me later.
No
but it was just, it was just the TechCon, what we know now as the original TechCon Unplugged was John Dubinsky, Paco, and why am I forgetting the main man? Oh God, I'm gonna get killed for this. Jeff Howard. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And they were combined with some other guys, and they put on the first event. They put on 2 events, and the first one when I went to, first was in Toronto, then they had it in Washington D.C. It was called the Unconvention. I'm sorry, that's what it was called, and that's where Paco and I met. And we formed a lasting bond. I met Paco, John, Jeff, Joe Canassa. There's a whole bunch of us. We all met and we stayed friends. We formed a tight-knit group. And it's like I say, it's one of the greatest benefits I've gotten from going to events. I've gone to plenty and I have met some good people that I've kept in touch with. But this is a tight knit, small group that I've been able to lean on, been able to learn from, grow from, and it's helped me to expand my business. So, which is why when Paco called me and asked me, "Hey, would you like to partner with me to do this?" I couldn't say no. I was excited as all hell to get it done. But enough about that, Josh. Let's talk about you and what's going on. And again, things are a little off today, so let me say again, welcome.
Thank you.
To have you here tonight. And
it's good to be here. How many IT folks does it take to get on a conference call together?
Exactly.
More than two, apparently.
Fix this.
More than two.
But we're getting there. We're getting there. But tell me, give everybody who does not know you a little bit of background on you, what your history is, and what you're doing right now.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Josh Weiss. I founded an MSP called LA Creative Technologies back in 2012. I ran that company out of Los Angeles, California. I ran that company for about a decade. We were an MSP focusing mostly on a few verticals, mostly on creative arts, cultural nonprofits, and architecture firms. And I actually sold that company to a company out of Torrance, California. It's still here in Southern California in the South Bay. Our new company is called Logic Technology Consulting Group. I have joined as the director of operations. So that's pretty exciting for me. Just kind of getting that settled down, getting used to my new role. But in my decade with LA Creative, I was pretty heavily involved with the MSP industry. I did a lot with Continuum before they were purchased by ConnectWise, spoke at a lot of Continuum events and worked pretty heavily on their help desk team and worked on kind of helping some of the development of their RMM tool from an early access standpoint. I really have always enjoyed speaking in the channel at Continuum conferences and AVIC conferences, and most recently at Channel Partners with Paco a couple months ago. And in my new role, really just kind of getting settled in, but I'm really excited to have the chance to sort of focus a little more thoroughly on cybersecurity and operations. I was kind of ready for a new adventure, kind of ready to take off my business owner hat and be a business leader and put on that hat. So really, really, really interesting experience. I'm learning so much about integration. Not the easiest thing in the world to put two MSPs together, but really learning a lot and just getting a chance to kind of reevaluate and kind of reapproach. It's really amazing to just, I had myself and 4 employees at LA Creative, and we're now a team of 15. And so it's just a very, very different collaborative experience. So really that's, the thing that I am most singularly focused on right now is sort of what I've learned from the M&A process, sort of from the micro side of things. I know a lot of people are selling their business for $50 million, surprise, surprise, that wasn't me. But I'm feeling really good about everything. And just like what I've learned, about what the nimble MSP can expect in an M&A process, and also really kind of digging into this integration from so many different angles, right? I mean, just before this call, I was just kind of looking at, like, for anyone thinking about selling an MSP, there's so many things to think about, like who's going to send the invoices this month and who's going to send the invoices next month, and dealing with sort of, receivables and payments and how all that stuff works, when you're so used to something as a business owner and all of a sudden that's sort of going away and changing. And so it's just been a really fascinating process for me.
Yeah, I want to get into a little bit of the M&A stuff. Just, for those out there who are thinking about going that route at some point of selling. But first, I want to say congratulations to you.
Thank you.
On doing that, on your sale. That's good stuff for you. If for those of us who have those thoughts, it's definitely good to see that the possibilities are out there, that people are doing it. I know you touched on this somewhat, but I guess my question is having run my business for the last 19 years now,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, how is that transition? I know you touched on it somewhat, but how is that transition from going from an owner, decision maker to, I don't want to say just an employee, but to an employee now?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have to say I closed the sale on June 26th. So, this is all pretty new for me. Okay. It's all about 5 weeks out right now. But it's really good for a couple of different reasons. I mean, I think for one thing, I'm working with someone who.
Oh, I think we lost Josh.
Okay,
you silent out for a second. Yeah, you're back. Okay.
So, I mean, I'm working with someone who doesn't like the word boss, doesn't like the word employee. He's very collaborative. And so, that certainly makes things nice. I like who I'm working with. I like the company that I've joined. I have a lot of autonomy and a lot of freedom in the way that I'm working. I have more time off than I was able to give myself when I was the boss.
I can imagine.
And so, what I can tell you is that it feels good. It feels creative. It feels a little more free than I was before. I love who we work for. Like, the clients that we work for are mostly labor unions and nonprofits who are doing some pretty amazing work. Sort of being in this time that we are in this country, I'll just leave it at that. But it's a wild time here. And to be able to work for these incredible organizations and nonprofits is just blowing my mind. But it's working for me because of the autonomy, because of the creativity, and because of really like the morals and ethics of the company that I've joined, right? It's very specific. I couldn't have gone to just work for just anybody. And it wouldn't have worked for me to join in some kind of roll up in some 200 person, MSP that didn't have like the type of, how do I want to say this? Really just like the way of operating in the world. That's all very important to me. Just as an example, I was able to bring my entire team along and give them all jobs. And I'm actually watching them, maybe work a little harder than I made them work, but at the same time, like really enjoying the work and enjoying the collaboration and creativity. So kind of tossing all that together is making it work really well for me.
That's good.
There's a lot of situations where it couldn't have worked. And I mean, I'll tell you the truth. I was scared of that fact. And for anyone who's thinking about M&A, right, some people, it wouldn't work for them. Right. They wouldn't be able to hop in. But to me, this worked specifically because of who did the acquisition, who the company is, who our clients are, and all of that.
Okay. Well, that sounds good.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking about it. And just, I think it's awesome as well that you were able to, I don't know, we'll have to talk specifics, but I don't know if it was part of your deal to bring your crew with you to make sure they had jobs. But, that's a responsible thing to do.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, as anyone who's thinking about selling a business and having read some books, like Jameson West wrote a book. I can't remember his name right now, but Jameson West wrote a book about selling an MSP. That's a pretty easy read, but it'll give you nightmares. If you care about your team, it'll give you nightmares. And I'll tell you, it took about 3 months from the time that I sort of first started talking Logic to pulling this off. And for almost that entire time, I was afraid I was only going to get to bring one employee along. And I was very, very nervous about it. It doesn't feel good. And so certainly one of my non-negotiables was that I needed my team to be well taken care of. But that was a little bit vague as to how that was going to go. I really wasn't able to know.
Now, I don't want to get, too deep, and we don't need details of your deal, but what I would imagine some of our listeners are curious about is how does that come about? Like, you wake up one day and say, "Hey, I want to sell," or out of the blue, somebody pops up on you and says, "Hey, I want to buy you."
So, I mean, I'm happy to answer this in a somewhat vulnerable fashion. I mean, just like for so many people, the last couple of years have been somewhat difficult for me. There was some personal things that happened, and it wasn't the easiest time for me. And I came to, let's say, October 2021, kind of last quarter of 2021, and it wasn't feeling so great for me. I was actually thinking I needed some kind of change in my life. I came back around from that, and I ended up being pretty excited and juiced again. But it happened to me a second time in March 2022, where I just was like, this is not feeling right for me. Like there's something that's not working so well in life for me. And I think I'm being told by my brain, by my mind, whatever it is, that it's time to make a jump, to make a change. And it seems very hard to conceptualize, like, how am I going to sell my business? Can I sell it for enough to be worth it? Shouldn't I do this for 5 more years so I can go retire to a beach and never have to work again? All this stuff, right? It's like the chatter is terrible. But it originally came about where I mean, this is kind of funny. I worked with a coach for a couple months, and he was someone in the MSP industry specifically. And I got on a prospecting call with him, and like 2 minutes in, he's like, "You need to sell your business." Like,
wow.
He was like, "I could tell you're done. You're done. Like, it's okay. It's okay to be done. There's nothing wrong with being done, right? Not like you're a failure, you have to walk away, but like you're ready for the next adventure, right?"
Right.
Talk to him. I see a therapist, and my therapist kind of said the same thing. Like, it seems like you're ready to explore something new. And it kind of reminded me, I remember in college, I was dating a woman, and I had dated her for a couple of years. And when I had broken up with her at the end, I told some of my friends, and they were like, "Hey, it's about time." Like, I knew you were ready to do that, right? And I kind of felt the same way when I started running it by a couple of my close friends. They were just like, "You've been done for a while. It's okay." Right? So to me, it was a very personal decision. It was like, I'm ready for a change in my life. And now I have to figure out the right way to do it. Because I mean, I said before, I work with creatives and nonprofits, basically. I have a very, very specific vertical niche. And if I had sold my business on some weird roll up or some, national conglomerate, I think all my clients would have left and my earnout would have been busted, and I would have felt bad about the whole thing. So I really had to get in here and say, okay, I'm ready for this change, but I need to preserve my culture, right? I need to preserve my culture. I need something where my employee, or where the clients that I work with are going to be able to thrive and grow, and where my employees are going to have a way to move forward as well. And so I first was approached by a friend of mine who'd been working on trying to put together a project for a while nationally. Did a call with him, signed an NDA, realized the timeline wasn't quite on point. And I just randomly I'd been having dinner with the owner of Logic every couple months. And we had dinner. I mentioned that I was thinking about selling, and we went very thoughtfully through a process of getting to know each other more. We'd known each other. We met at an event with a Continuum rep, like back in 2018. But we went very carefully and specifically through getting to know each other. And, I think the most important thing when you're doing a deal like this is that both parties are willing to compromise somewhat. I don't think he thought he was going to bring my whole team. I think there were certain things I thought might have been different. We really went back and forth, but there was something really interesting that a friend of mine who is an accountant for like a very large technology consulting company, he's done 5 M&A deals. He's been on both sides of the table. And when I told him where I was at, he said, "Josh, this sounds very easy. It sounds like the two of you get along, and the two of you are sort of being kind to each other and are doing this deal, where both sides are willing to budge a little." And he said, easy counts for a lot. And that to me was very important, right? Because during this process, I probably signed like 10 NDAs and talked to various people and sort of heard various things. But I could see from the beginning how it was going to go, but I was trying to keep my eyes open the whole time. So, right, had a personal thing, decided I wanted to make some change, coincidentally had a dinner with 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 my new colleague Johan, like the day I decided to make that change, and then just kind of watched carefully as I went.
There's a couple of things you touched on that I think are important, but in the end, hearing your story, it sounds like the stars aligned for you perfectly for it to work out, and congratulations on that. And that just tells me, as someone of faith, it was meant to be, and it worked out exactly the way it was supposed to.
You can't say anything but that. It was all faith, right? And again, like I don't want to tell anyone on this call it's like 100% perfect. Is it exactly how I envisioned 5 years ago when this might happen? No, but it is what it is, and it's great, right? It's like it's really working well, and you can't drop that element of faith and sort of coincidence, faith, whatever you want to call it.
I wanted to touch on a few things you said leading up to your decision. As when it's one of the things we talk about. I've made this comment a couple of times just about mental health for all of us. We doing this job, and being an MSP is no different. The burden is no different than any other entrepreneur who is trying to run a business. All of the hats you have to wear, and all of the pressures, the stress, the employees, the cash flow, all of those things. I'm not singling out MSPs as a special group, but I always I stress that that mental health part of this, and just knowing sometimes to take a break, to step back, to cool out. And that's exactly why I asked you. I didn't know your story prior to this, but it's why I asked you what precipitated your decision. And and it sounds like you listened, and you listened to what was being told in your head, and then you had people you knew and trusted who also told you, hey, I saw that weeks ago, months ago, and you've come to that conclusion. But it's great that first and foremost, because some of us, I put us in a couple of different buckets, but some of us just want to do and don't want to. They consider anything outside of doing it the way they originally wrote it down, whatever the storybook ending was. They consider anything else less than that of failure. But there's pivots in life we take, there's changes we make, and it's again, I'm saying this for everyone who can hear me, that running a business, any business, is tough, and you have to know when I don't even want to say you had enough, but you have to know when you have to step back a little bit for your own self-preservation. And it sounds to me like you got to that point. You still love what you do, and now it sounds like you're excited because you're taking on some new challenges.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I think part of it, right, is we're being in this kind of United States hustle culture, entrepreneurship, everything like that. It's easy to feel like, it was easy for me to sort of feel like, hey, I'm a failure. I'm stopping. I'm quitting, right? And it took a certain mental gymnastics to realize that wasn't the case at all.
Right.
Right. And to not be like, and even to just be like, maybe I don't have to run an MSP forever. Right. Because it's hard to even take a step back and say, wait, I'm doing this, and this is what I started doing, and this was my dream to do. But is this what I'm supposed to do forever? Because it's like so hard to get off that hamster wheel, in a sense. I mean, I think it's going to be 2 more months until I'm fully off this one. Even just making a transition months, right? It's like, it's really interesting, right? There's so much momentum behind it, and just getting to that point where like, this is actually exciting. This is a success. This is not a failure. I don't have to do this in this way, right? It's hard to to sort of make those decisions in life. And, I knew I hit a point where the decision was kind of made for me, but it's still hard to get there.
Right.
And to not be, I could have done this, I could have done that, I could have done it this way. Like, it's just endless.
Right.
To really just come to a place of power and be like, this is the decision I'm making. I'm going to make this work the best for myself possible. And I'm ready for what's next.
Right. And then it takes you to it's not, and it all depends on your perspective on everything, right? You can look at it as, if you want, you can look at it as a failure. You can look at it as not, but you can also look at it as a growth opportunity. You can look at it as the next step in life, right? As we move on, it's the next step in life. And for everyone, whatever that choice may be, whatever you may decide to do, whether you stay, some people say, you die in your chair, or because some people will stay in their business, forever, because it's what they know, it's all they know. And, and others will, make choices to transition, whether that be retirement, whether that be selling, whether that be quitting, and it's just, it's all part of the growth and the learning curve of life.
Well, and you and I are both on the Tech Tribe, which is a forum for people who don't know, which is sort of a place where it's mostly for the nimble MSP crew to kind of go and just talking about running, smallish, maybe a couple 100,000 to a couple million revenue MSPs. And there was a fair amount of posts happening earlier this year about people who were just super heavily burned out and people who were just trying to like tune out. How do we maintain our heads screwed on well and like really take care of the security threats and take care of what's out there and really pay attention and be mindful, but also not to fall down like the hole of like vendor induced stress. And there were some people that gave some advice that I thought was pretty bad advice on the forum about what people in my shoes might do. Like take out a loan and hire a technical manager, and then you won't have to do the technical manager anymore. And then you can focus on sales or, whatever it might be, things that might work for one person's business. But it was helpful to read what I instinctively knew I didn't want to do as sort of one end of the equation to get me to where I wanted to be. But also just reading about people's struggles and people's depression and people's stress and pressure and burnout. Like, thankfully I have a lot more time off allowed to me this year than I had last year. And dude, I've hardly taken a day off in a year. I was just trying to be doing some planning. And I was like, wait, last time I was on a real trip was a year ago. And, it's like humans aren't made for this.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I went to this summer. This spring. My oldest daughter was in Germany for a year, so we went to Germany for a week. Wow. And I realized I don't know how to vacation. Like, this is all I've been doing, and I realized I don't know how to, relax. And then when I think about that, I realize how sad that is. You know what I mean? For me, for other people, it may be different.
For all of us, man.
But, my kids are having a great time and everybody's running around smiling, joking. And my mind is constantly back here in the States, back here in the business. And, you don't want, to me, realized that I needed to take a step back and make some changes, to how things went before I burned myself out. But,
there's these folks on the Tech Tribe right now. People are like, when's the last time you took a vacation? And there's people on there saying 4 years ago, 5 years ago, like, what's a vacation? I mean, it's there's a few people who have different answers, but the general answer is what's a vacation?
What's a vacation? For most people, vacation is spending 2 days and 3 days at a tech convention.
I mean, while you're going like this frantically on your phone.
All day. Exactly. So, there's something to be said for just learning to and for lack of a better word, learning to just chill out. You know what I mean? Just
literally how to learn how to relax. I mean, it's
exactly.
And we're living in a culture which discourages it. Yeah, it's not even just our industry. Yeah. It's a culture that discourages relax. And it's wild.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing that is the most important for people listening and for people in this business is to take time off. But not only that, is to like learn how to take some time in the morning and meditate and exercise, or whatever you have to do to stay sane. right? Like, because there's just endless courses to take and systems to configure and security threats to worry about and everything. And if you don't make time for yourself, you can burn out.
Exactly. And the problems are always going to be there. They're consistent. So, right. And if you don't learn to just, take a moment, you're absolutely right. And now I do want to transition a little bit into what you're doing now.
Yeah, please.
And how that makes you, it still goes back to the same mental, but it sounds to me you're extremely happy about what you're doing and a little relieved about it. Just give us a little more.
Yeah, I mean, so, director of operations, I mean, this was a title. I mean, the title was assigned to me, but the job duties themselves were really kind of up to me to do what made sense to me. It's funny, though, since it's an operational role, I'm definitely mostly in charge of the integration of the two companies. And so we use a lot of our peripheral stack is the same. So like we're both, I know you have Darren from EmiBot coming on the show later this week. And so we both use EmiBot. We both use Adigy to manage our Macs. We're both using CIPP to manage our Microsoft tenants. So there's some of our automation stack is pretty similar, but we got to move my tickets from ConnectWise to Datto, PSA, Autotask, which we're using now, and get all of we're using an outsourced help desk from Collaborance, which is pretty great as far as outsourced help desks go, but we're going to go in-source now and get off and Central RMM and move to Datto. So there's 1,000 little things to plan. We set up something like 12 working groups, right? So we have a security awareness training working group to really build out operationalize our SAT tool Hackware, which I used to use and which we're now using to replace WebRoot. So we have an SAT working group. We have an automation working group. We have a service delivery working group. We have a accounts payable accounting working group, right? So we have these working groups, and it's kind of come to me to help supervise, like assigning an owner for each one of those things and making sure the stuff is getting done. Specifically, I'm going to be in charge of cybersecurity. I'm working on moving all the documentation over. So one whole role of this is really, for this first quarter, is really just running the integration as much as possible. But going forward, my role is mostly going to be centered around bringing the automation practice that we built at LA Creative into Logic as much as possible. So one of the employees I brought over is going to be running that, but I'm going to be helping to supervise. I'm going to be helping to supervise cybersecurity efforts, and generally just like looking at how I can help to improve the operations in the company. I think I've always been a little more of an operational brain than like a finance brain. And so it kind of makes sense to step away from some of the ownership hat and really just dive into the creative part. So, something that I do a lot of is sort of like the really high level project management. So we're doing a couple 1,000-seat Microsoft to Google migration right now for a large startup client of ours. And I've just been kind of helping to run that and just always looking for opportunities. We build a lot of offices, and I'm looking to operationalize that as much as possible. So I made a very detailed discovery form that sort of is everything you need to know to run the tech part of a office build out. And I mean, we're doing 5 office builds outs and a 2,000-seat Microsoft to Google migration now for one client right in the middle of this integration. And like my head is just spinning.
Wow.
But I'm seeing a lot of opportunities, right? How do we take all this and make it so it's less high level work and it's more sort of routinized and operationalized? So
cool.
Automation, operations, project management, security. I think that's what I'm going to be doing and what I'm feeling some creative juice about right now.
Cool.
And what was so hard to do when I was focused on everything else before.
Right. And now you get to basically have a little bit of tunnel vision into what you're doing. I know it's a variety of things, but it's just that, and the other parts of it are behind you. You don't have to worry about it. Yes. And that sounds cool. And it sounds like to me, it sounds like you're excited about it, and and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of learnings in there, a lot of growth for you, and and that's a good thing. So again, I'll say to you, congratulations on that, man.
Thank you so much.
If you're happy, then I'm happy for you. Really.
I'm smiling a lot more than I was 6 weeks ago. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. We're coming up actually on the end of time. So I think we had a great conversation, and I love the fact that we didn't talk, we talked about tech, but we didn't talk much tech. And it was just really a conversation here to, about what's going on. But I will ask this, we did talk a little bit about the M&A process and what you went through and, how it came about for you. I know for others, the path, some of us planned this out, they had this strategy of selling in a certain amount of time, and some of us just forced out, whatever the case may be. But I know you and I have communicated through the Tech Tribe, so I know you. But if anyone wanted to get in touch with you to ask any questions or just to see what's going on, how would they do that now?
Yeah, just the email address that was actually put on the LinkedIn post, Josh at Logic TCG Technology Consulting Group.com, Josh at LogicTCG.com. I would be totally open to speaking to people about, maybe you're in the middle of a process and you need some advice, or maybe just trying to think about, selling when you didn't think you could, or anything like that. I would be more than happy to talk to anyone about that. There's a lot of people in the industry that were more than happy to hop on calls with me that were so helpful that I really, really appreciated. Right. And I think what's especially interesting is anyone listening, maybe you thought you were too small to sell, or you weren't ready, but you need to change. Like, there's always a way to do it. It's going to be harder for you if you don't have any MRR. You might struggle, but I had less MRR than other people out there, and I was still able to do it. So,
right.
I think that there's always a way.
And that's good. I went out of order with something, but I'll just ask this question anyway.
Yeah.
Is there, during our discussion, is there anything that you probably wanted to say that you don't think we touched on that you thought anyway we should know, or did we covered everything? Or
no, I think this is good. It's really interesting. I could have a whole nother talk. We could have a whole nother conversation about some of the cool, the cool automation stuff out there. I love that you guys are going to have Darren and Dimitri on next week. And just to me, I think what I'm the most juiced about right now in the industry is these small players, or the new players, like people like AmyBot, or like, what CyberDrain is doing with CIPP for free, right? When you got Pax8 trying to sell their automation tool for Microsoft for $400 a month, that doesn't even really do anything. And then you got CyberDrain, here's open source, do it for free, right? Or you got, you got Domots and sort of what they're doing, and just like all these players that are like actually throwing a lot of development effort at what they're building, and making it affordable even for the small guys. And not only that, but building, I feel like for so many years I personally felt held back by, like, I was using Continuum RMM, and like I could only do what automation they could do. Right. And to use a tool like AmyBot that's obviously made by people that actually need to run automation to run their businesses, like that to me is what is just really exciting me. It's just what's possible. Or what's possible by learning to use the Microsoft stack better. Or, I see people who like feel like they have to go buy Okta for SSO, but then I'm like, well, you're a nonprofit and you're on Google and you can already do SSO. Like, sure, Okta does more, but you're a 20-person nonprofit. Do you need that? So what I'm excited about is like the underdogs players, and just like what you can do with the tools you already have. That's the stuff that's blowing me away right now. And that I could talk about forever.
I think what we should do then is have you back on and we talk about some of that stuff. Because our Tech Talk Tuesday talks are really just about things that can help others in our community grow their business and learn. So that sounds like a conversation we could spend some good time on and gain some good learnings from. So
well, let's do it, man. I love it.
You got it over the invitation.
Good to meet you on camera here.
Yeah, definitely. Let me do this. Let me close us out here. I do want to, again, Josh, thanks so much for coming. Thanks for the talk today. I think our community can definitely benefit from the conversation and to benefit from your experience that you had. And I appreciate you being open about, the process and what you went through. That's extremely important. So I do sincerely thank you for that, and I thank you for your time. For everyone else, I do want to thank you for tuning in this evening, and I ask you to tune in every Tuesday and Thursday. You can watch the video podcast here on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged, facebook.com/MSP Unplugged, or on LinkedIn at hit up hashtag MSP Unplugged, and you'll find the LinkedIn connection there. You can also take us on the go with your favorite podcatcher app. We're on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, just to name a few. I do want to thank you all for listening. Thanks again to Josh, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.